It is actually a huge honor to be interviewing a good mate of mine, as well as someone who is proudly South African, but maybe supports the All Blacks, I'm not sure. But someone who I believe is leading their life really well. And I want you, please, to all join me to welcome Byron now to the stage. Hey, bro.
Thank you.
So each week we've got someone in store that we're going to start off our sort of our message part with an interview, and today we've got Byron. Byron, if nobody knows you, they don't know what you're about, they don't know your interests or anything about you, could you introduce yourself and just tell us a bit more about yourself?
Sweet. So first of all, I don't support the All Blacks.
Wow, brave.
So I'm originally from South Africa. Been living in New Zealand for 3.5 years. I'm sure you can't tell because I don't have any accent left anymore. I've got a beautiful wife, Shanae. She works at Gracegate. She does the Grace Kids. We've got a baby girl on the way, so that's exciting news for us. By day, I'm a mechanical draftsman, and then I also do CrossFit and coach CrossFit.
Okay, cool. So does everyone know what CrossFit is? Maybe. Byron, if nobody knows what CrossFit is, could you brief us quickly what is CrossFit all about?
Sweet. So the gist of CrossFit is basically just functional movements, a variation of functional movements at a high intensity. So what we tend to do is we take a simple movement like a squat and a push press and combine them, call it a thruster, and then tell you to do 50 of them over a short period of time. So the intensity goes up, so your heart rate goes up and so on. And then, so yes, and we got a couple of cool workouts. We throw in the jam a whole bunch of different movements. We do like gymnastic stuff, weightlifting stuff, combine them all. So you basically get fit and strong at the same time. So I guess that's the gist of CrossFit.
Sounds like my worst nightmare, bro. Hey? But CrossFit, like I've always known about CrossFit and I've always been inspired seeing CrossFitters and seeing what they do. And this weekend actually is the CrossFit Games, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So currently in the States, they're having the CrossFit Games where everyone from around the world goes and competes against each other. But I want to understand why, Byron. Why did you decide to get engaged with CrossFit, and how long have you been engaged with CrossFit for?
So I've always just wanted to be, I guess, fit and healthy and so on. I've always just had a passion to just gym or something, you know. But my personality of such is just that I want to do it and I want to do it right. So I didn't really have someone to actually take me under their wing and say, cool, this is how you do a squat, this is how you do a push press, or so on and so forth. So I did do the gymming thing for a bit, but then eventually one of my friends was like, yo, have you heard about CrossFit? So delved into that, and then I just joined a CrossFit box and basically just started from there. So I've been doing CrossFit for about 7 years, coaching CrossFit for about 5 of those 7 years, 2 of them in South Africa and 3 in New Zealand. And yeah, so that's how I got into it, and yeah.
Okay, cool. And so now for all of us wondering, how does a normal, like if you're coaching CrossFit, if you're also doing CrossFit yourself, how does your normal week look concerning CrossFit?
So my CrossFit week starts on a Sunday afternoon actually, with meal prepping and so on, because it's quite important. You want to, like really putting good stuff in your body, I guess, for the work you want to do throughout the week. So I'd start out the afternoon by preparing all my meals and so on, and then basically jumping straight to a Monday. I would go to work, and then after that I would go do the 4:30 class, 4:30 to 5:30 training. Tuesday pretty much the same, where I would go to work and then afterwards do the 4:30 class, but then I would coach a weightlifting class at 5:30 and then a normal CrossFit class at 6:30, and only leave the box at 7:30, 7:45ish. Okay, that's a Tuesday. A Wednesday, pretty much just a normal day where I go to work and then train again, the 4:30 class. Thursday, pretty much the same again, where I go to work and train again, 4:30 class. But because I coach on a Friday morning, I have to do this whole preparation thing, which annoys my wife, where I actually have to pack my bags and get everything right, because I actually wake up at 20 to 5 in the morning to be at the box at 5, to coach my class at 5:45. So yeah, wake up early, and then I'll coach from 5:45 until 6:45, get dressed, go to work. Depending on the schedule, sometimes I'll go back to the box on the Friday. I'll train again in the afternoon. I'll coach again 5:30 in the afternoon. Coach again 6:30. Then the crazy part is I wake up every single Saturday at 5:30, and then I go train and I do a comp squad with some of my friends for more competitive, I guess, CrossFitters. And then I might do the 8 o'clock class and then coach again, maybe the 8 to 9 class, and then clean the box afterwards.
This sound a bit crazy so far. Did you all get that? Huh? Can you print that schedule out for us? So this morning, before you came to church, were you at CrossFit?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Training.
All right. Now, I've heard a rumor that CrossFit is quite expensive, Byron. Is that true?
It is true, but I think the thing about it, the reason it's so expensive is it's basically personal training at the end of the day. Every single class, you have a coach basically looking over you, making sure that you're moving well, you're moving correct, and so on and so forth, and I guess loving on people, type of thing. So that's why it's so expensive. A lot of the time you go to a gym, you don't even know what to do. The programming gets done for you. You don't even have to think about it. So yeah, I think, and it also depends, the classes you take. If you do an unlimited thing, it will cost more and so on and so forth. So it just depends the box you go at to.
Okay. Maybe you could share with us a bit about your responsibilities as a coach. What does that look like?
So my responsibilities as a coach is just to make sure that people move safe. I think that's the number one responsibility of a good coach. Really breaks my heart, if you see people post these CrossFit fails and stuff, because it's a lack of coaching. Someone didn't tell that person to move right, and second to that, you want to actually teach someone to move efficiently, because obviously if they don't move efficiently, they'll obviously hurt themselves. So I guess through that, what you tend to do is when someone comes to you and say, because that happens often, it's like, oh, my knee is sore, I can't actually squat. Then you have to look at the workout and actually scale it back to their capabilities. I mean, there's people, they're 90 years old, literally 90 years old doing CrossFit.
Wow.
They might not do it at the same intensity as, like some of the CrossFit Games athletes, but as a coach, you have to break it down for them so that they can actually do it to their capacity, to their intensity. So, yeah, and just the general stuff, opening and closing the box, which a lot of people don't think about, because, I have to be there a little bit early to prepare for the class, make sure warm-up's all on the board and all of that's ready, and then locking up afterwards, I guess, is the basic responsibilities.
Okay, cool. And we're currently in a series, and it's all about leadership, and that's why I got Byron up here in front, because I feel he's leading his life really well, and in a context that looks very different to what maybe we're accustomed to in the context of church. But tell me, what are some of the costs that you personally actually, it takes for you to achieve some of your wins?
Well, I guess the personal cost for me, and I'm sure Shanae again would vouch for this one, it takes quite a lot of your personal time away. But it's sort of a bit of an offer up you have to give to, I guess, live healthy. When I coach late night, I only get home at 8, and then you're tired. You don't want to even talk about CrossFit anymore. You just had enough, So it costs you a lot of time in that regard, and also a little bit of money, I guess, like making sure you got the right supplements and the right food, because meal prepping and stuff, it takes quite a lot of time. Even that in itself, preparing the night before, not a lot of people see that when you coach, but I have to prepare the night before for me to go to coach the next morning, and pack my bags and all of that, So time is one of the biggest thing, I guess, it costs me personally. And then just being consistent, like that's the number one thing. If you say you're going to train 3 times a week, and you train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and stay consistent with that, because that's when you get the true results.
Okay, awesome. Now, this is quite open. I share this all the time, that I struggle to actually go to the gym. I've gone to the gym a few times. I've recently signed up for it with a new contract, and I've been there once. So I'm curious just to find out, you're a coach, Byron. How many people rock up at the gym at the CrossFit box just once and sort of just disappear?
Well,
do you see that happen often?
You do tend to see it, but the reason for that is usually people come there with a mindset of, oh, I'll just give it a go, and But the thing that I believe makes CrossFit so successful, and I well and truly believe that Grayscape does this really good, is as soon as you go through the doors, they love on you, and that's something that they do at CrossFit, Doesn't matter if you've been doing CrossFit for 50 years, or if you obese or anything like that, we don't care. We just want you to come. We want you to be the best you, And that's what it's all about, just loving on that people. And then usually when you're a good coach and you do that, and then they experience that, you know, I'm talking about actually caring, not just being like, hey, how are you? Like actually caring. That's when the people say, this is who I want to be. You know, this is a good community. I want to be here. You know, so you do get those people who come and then be like, I'm just going to give it a go. And usually be like, oh, I did it, but it wasn't for me. But usually they would stay just because of that aspect of CrossFit, the whole community.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that community thing. Tell me a bit about yourself and leadership and just CrossFit in general. How has CrossFit sort of taught you just to lead your life well? Has it? Have there been some learnings?
Yes, definitely. I mean, like for me, like even this morning, you know, I look at the work and I'm just like, how am I going to do that? You know, like sometimes we face with like really big challenges at work, major big projects and stuff. And something I've learned through CrossFit is just chip away at it, you know, just start small, worry about the little portion you're doing right now and work your way through it, you know. And I mean, like looking back, I'm like, I can't actually believe I finished the workout, you know what I'm saying? And then you apply that same mindset at work, in your personal life, you know, any addiction or whatever, you just say, I'm just going to work on a little portion and then I'll worry about the next portion, you know. I guess that's something I've really learned from CrossFit. And as well, I've just been comfortable speaking to people, you know, because you get placed, you know. And another thing, I mean, like when you coach someone, not everybody moves the same, you know. So it teaches you to think on your feet and actually be like, cool, this person moves this, he's got these issues, and I have to now apply this. And also to transfer that information to them, because a lot of people, you would say something, but it just doesn't go in, and you have to try a different method of actually trying to get that information to go into them, I guess. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, one of the things, does anyone know anyone else who does CrossFit? Is there anyone in the audience at all? No? Yeah. Okay, and we're not marketing for CrossFit today, just so you know, all right? But if you've met someone who does CrossFit, there's sort of this stigma around that. What do?
They talk about it.
They talk about CrossFit like all the time, all right? Or they post pictures on Facebook. They're celebrating all the time. Maybe, Byron, can you share just a bit about why is that the case?
The thing is with CrossFit is, again, we try and celebrate the small victories. You know, I mean, like just the other day I got a guy, he was too big and he couldn't do a burpee. And I don't know if you guys know what a burpee is, but you just go down to the ground, push-ups, jump up and clap your hands above your head. Now, it sounds super simple for you and myself, but it's not. You know, for these people, it's like a major thing. For me, it's nothing. I can do 100 of them, doesn't matter. But for him, he can't do one. So as soon
Prove
as
it. Should we get it? Huh? No?
As soon as that person actually achieves that small goal, it's us as coaches to actually celebrate. Like, oh, well done. You know, we try and take videos and put it on Facebook. And a lot of people on the outside think it's a bragging thing, but it's actually them achieving a big milestone in their life, you know, and that's what it's all about. And a lot of CrossFit boxes actually have a bell hanging in the corner. So when you achieve a personal best or something, you just go and ring it, ding, 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 you know, and everybody celebrates and everybody cheers, you know. And that's,
so good.
I guess that's really, 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 really important, you know, with CrossFit and why people dig it so much, you know, and you do all these fun things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I actually love it because I think, you know, what better way to be improving physically and actually having a community around you cheering you on, where in the context, most times in this, you know, culture that we live in, everyone's, you know, voicing different voices about, you know, how you look or your physical body. So that's awesome to hear, Byron. And I want to ask you a bit about courage. Has there been a time where you've sort of had to wear courage on your sleeve, hold on to it with both hands?
Yes, it sort of like reminds me of this one competition we were doing, if you think about CrossFit. So basically, just to give a bit of context, I was at this competition, and in a competition with teams, each person in the team gets a portion of work to do, right? And at this stage, I've done already 3 or 4 workouts as a whole, and my last portion I had to do was 45 thrusters. Now, I've never, ever, ever, ever been able to do this ever again, what I'm going to tell you now. But so my portion was these 45 thrusters. So thruster, like I said, you squat down, you have a bar on your chest, you squat down to the ground, come up, and then you push all the way through to the top. That's one, right? And you do it with 45 kilograms. So my portion was doing 45 of them, okay? And at that stage, we were sort of tied with the team, and we're at the CrossFit box, and 3, 2, 1, go, and everybody goes, and now it's my turn to do my portion, and I'm facing my opponent, okay? And I pick up the
Wow.
bar, and my coach at that stage was standing right next to me, and I go, and I go. Now, like I said, I've never, ever done more than maybe 20 in a row. So I go, and I do, and I do, and I go, and I keep moving, and I had my coach right next to me yelling at me, saying, you will not drop the bar, don't drop the bar, don't,
Cool.
keep going, keep going, keep going. So I'm at 30, and this guy's not dropping the bar, so I'm not dropping the bar, okay? And I'm just going at it. And
Cool.
eventually, I finished all 45 unbroken, and I could never, ever do that again. And I just realized that sometimes you just need that person right next to you, sort of like shouting in your ear and saying, like, just keep going. You are able, you are capable, you know?
Yeah.
So, yes, I really, really had to dig deep in that situation
Cool.
just to keep going on. So, yeah, we won.
Awesome. Now, Byron, can you tell me, as much as I love CrossFit, the biggest thing that I value about you, okay?
So you're going to sign up?
I do, come on. But the biggest thing I value about you is actually your faith. You're a strong believer. You're a Jesus follower. You've shared with me how actually CrossFit is actually your sphere of influence, and how you see that's your ministry, that's your calling, that's where you invest in people. Maybe you could just share with us as a community just a bit about your faith journey. That'll be cool.
Yeah, so when I was still a teenager, I had this guy, Yaku. He really invested like a lot of time into me, like personal time, So, and that meant a lot to me, like just pick me up, bring me to church, take me to cell, all these things, like he invested a lot of personal time into me, and just kept checking up and so on. And that's what I want to do for people at the box, It might be the only time in their life they meet someone who knows Jesus, So I want to be Jesus to them, like I want to be the person that they'll be like, why is this guy different? Why is he? He's not just coaching me; he's actually caring about me, type of a thing. If I, like
It's very good.
I don't care like what a lot of people think of me, I guess. But like if I hear someone's got a need, I'll almost probably speak out and be like, yo man, like I'm praying for you, just so you know, like I just want to let you know, so that they know that I care far and beyond. Because I mean, anybody could learn the movements, be like, oh, this is how you squat, and this is how you do this. But I actually wanted to go that a little bit further and
Awesome.
love on them, and say like, I'm willing to, like go through this whole situation with you. I mean, I've had situations where people are like, oh, had a really like rough time with my, my spouse and so on. It's like, dude, just hang in there. Like, I believe it will pull through. Like, I'll love you and stuff like that. So, me investing that time into other people is how I think I just follow on what Yaku did to me.
Yeah, so good. Thanks, Byron. If there is some person in the audience thinking about CrossFit and joining your box, how could they actually, get registered or go and find out more information?
So I've got this theory, I guess. Before I go into that, is like if ever you want to do anything like from a fitness point of view or any big task, and you set yourself just a goal, think of painting a big fence, and you say, I want to paint a meter every day. One day you will come and it will be like, oh, I want to paint 10 meters. Don't. Paint 1 meter a day, okay? Because tomorrow you'll say, oh, I painted 10 meters. I'm not gonna paint another meter today, and so on. And that's the slippery slope. So if you want to do CrossFit, do CrossFit. If you want to walk around the block, walk once around the block. If that's your fitness thing, do that, and stick to that. If you do it 3 times a week, stick to that. Don't do more, because sometimes we do more, and then the next day we don't feel like Rich Froning anymore, and then we don't want to do it. And then that's how we jump back. If you were to want to join a CrossFit box, it's easy. You just go on CrossFit.com, go to the affiliate map finder, and then just look for affiliate in your area. Sign up. You don't have to come to my box. You can go to any box, give them a go, give them a test. A lot of them do like a little intro class. In that, they'll tell you what I basically told you about CrossFit and give you a workout, and hopefully you'll join up.
Awesome. Cool. Anyone wanting to join up? Yeah? Oh, there's one. Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. Byron, hey, thank you so much for just sharing a bit of your heart and what you do and how you lead. I really look up to you. The way you live your life and just your schedule, your discipline. I wish I had that discipline. Honestly, it inspires me. And I'm really excited about the new season that you guys are going into. in a few weeks or months' time. Byron's not going to just be Coach Byron, but he's going to be Daddy. So that's exciting. And we got you something. So we got you something for your daughter. We thought this would be pretty cool. This is just a cool little outfit, but on it says CrossFit Girl. All right.
Well,
So
cool.
we got that, but
Thank you.
I know there's a tension between, Shanae and yourself and CrossFit, so we thought, we'll also get another one.
Oh, yeah.
And this one just says, Grace Kid in Training.
Oh,
all right?
Awesome.
So, yeah,
Thank you so much.
that's for you guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, brother. Can we give him a hand? Thanks, Byron. I really honestly encourage anyone who, is keen to get in shape to join a box. It sounds like an awesome community, almost as good as Gracegate. And there's some cool results that you'll be able to see. I'm not going to say I'll do it anytime soon, but maybe. There's maybe, all right. But anyway, we're speaking about leadership. And last week, Zalia introduced us to this guy called Nehemiah. And I'm going to pick up the story this week and just continue with the story of Nehemiah. But basically, if you're here for the first time, I'll just give you a quick recap of what we're speaking about. And the idea is this whole sense that God has actually given each and every one of us a vision. There's something inside of us. There's something that God has created us for, more than just living a life for ourselves. There's something so much bigger than living our life for ourselves. And what we're trying to do during this series is actually just try and pray about it, try and seek God, and try and hopefully unpack and see, hey, what is it that God wants me to do personally for each and every one of us here at Gracegate or visiting today even. So, and we journeyed through the story of Nehemiah. Last week, Zalia shared about 3 things that Nehemiah did. And can anyone remember what those 3 things were? Yeah. He cried and he wept, okay? So Nehemiah, he heard news from his brother that in Jerusalem the walls were all destroyed. And he heard this news and he actually cried about it. He wept about it because it bothered him. And he said he actually wants to do something about it. And then what was the second thing that he did? He prayed, all right? So he prayed some bold prayers and he just spent time, almost like 4 months and more, just spending time with God and just asking God, hey, what he needs to do, and praying over the ruined walls and the people of Jerusalem. And then the third thing she shared last week was what? Which I think is most important. Is what? Act, all right? To act on it. To actually, like, it's all good and stuff, talking about living a life of purpose, vision, and being a catalyst, but actually takes action. It takes actually doing something. And today we're going to follow up on the story. If you have your Bible, if you want to read it on your phone, it's from Nehemiah chapter 2, where Nehemiah he's actually got the blessing from the king. The king has actually said, hey, I'm going to actually send you. He was the cupbearer of the king, and he said, hey, I'm actually going to send you. You've got my blessing. You can go to Jerusalem, and you can go and make a difference there. You can go and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. So we pick it up in Nehemiah 2, and today I want you to think in the context of the cost of the vision. Last week we spoke about the birth of a vision and the vision being born inside of us. But today I want us to focus on this title, sort of the cost of vision. What does it actually take to fulfill the vision that God has actually placed inside our hearts? And so in Nehemiah chapter 2, we start off and we read this. And it just says, so I arrived in Jerusalem. So I arrived in Jerusalem. And I read that this week. And then, often when you read something like this, it's just, you browse through it, you just read it and nothing sticks out. But then when I actually understood where Nehemiah was and I looked at where Jerusalem was, this is what the distance is between the two. All right, it says Susa was where Nehemiah was. Remember, Nehemiah was in a palace. He was actually serving the king at that time. He leaves that space and he actually journeys. Probably the average is about 1,230 kilometers. All right, that's just a direct straight line to Jerusalem. So this is Nehemiah, and I thought a bit about this. I thought, Nehemiah, all right, he sees that there's this huge need. He hears about this huge need from his brother, and then he decides, you know what, I'm actually going to act on it, and I'm actually going to journey 1,230 kilometers, and as we'll discover, he journeyed probably on a donkey, all right? I don't know about you guys, but how many of you are willing to journey almost the whole of New Zealand just to go and make a difference in a place on a donkey or walk? There's some of us, right? Some of us, I mean, it's hard enough for us just to move across the room and actually make a difference in someone's life, right? Yeah, we see Nehemiah, he says, hey, I'm going to journey, and he journeys all this way, and he arrives in Jerusalem. He arrives in the place where he sees that the walls are all broken, the people of Jerusalem are struggling. And today there's three sort of key points that I want us to take away, three principles that I want us to take away and hopefully apply to our own lives that I believe we can learn from Nehemiah's leadership, all right? And I've tried to make them in a way that hopefully we can remember them. So it's going to be the 3 I's, the 3 R's, and the 3 C's, all right? It's the IRC, all right? Not the IRD, the IRC, all right? Can you get that? The 3 I's, the 3 R's, and the 3 C's. Let's do the R's again, the 3. Oh, that's good. All right. So the first is this: investigation impacts initiation. Investigation impacts initiation. Let's look at this. Nehemiah, he arrives in Jerusalem, and then 3 days later, it says, I slipped out during the night. Taking only a few others with me, I had not told anyone about the plans God had put in my heart for Jerusalem. We took no pack animals with us except the donkey I was riding. After dark, I went out through the valley gate, past the jackal's well, and over to the dung gate to inspect the broken walls and the burned gates. Then I went to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but my donkey couldn't get through the rubble. So, though it was still dark, I went up to the Kidron Valley instead, inspecting the wall before I turned back and entered again at the valley gate. The city officials did not know I'd been out there or what I was doing, for I had not yet said anything to anyone about my plans. Yeah, we have Nehemiah. Something was bothering him, something broke his heart, and he decided, hey, I'm going to journey all the way to Jerusalem. He's got the blessing of the king, he's got the blessing of God. He arrives in Jerusalem, and when he arrives in Jerusalem, he just sits there for 3 days. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't tell anyone what he's doing. He doesn't share anything about his plan. And then late at night, I love this, because late at night, one night, he gets up and he says, hey, he's actually going to go and check out the walls. And he calls some of his good friends with him. He gets on his donkey and he goes around Jerusalem and he looks at the walls and he inspects them and he looks at the ruins and the brokenness of Jerusalem. All the different gates, and he goes around, and at one part it even says, hey, I couldn't get to the one gate because there was too much rubble. Like my donkey couldn't walk there. But he goes and he spends time, he goes late out at night to go and investigate, to go and check and see how the ruins actually look. I mean, he's heard the message before. His brother shared with him that the walls were broken, but he arrives in Jerusalem, doesn't do anything for 3 days, slips out at night, and he investigates the walls. Doesn't share with anyone what his plan is. And I love this because I see this like, if this was me and I had the blessing of the king, all right, I was serving the king, I had the blessing of the king, I had the blessing of God, I would turn up to Jerusalem and I just say, hey people, just come, just come closer. Just come closer. I just want you all to know, all right, that God has given me the blessing, and we're going to initiate the plan. We're going to start building straight away. I mean, wouldn't you? You've got all the authority. You've got the blessing of the king. The king's even written letters to the officials to actually say, hey, I've got my blessing on Nehemiah's life. But I love what Nehemiah does here, because what Nehemiah does here, and the principle that we can learn from this, is that investigation impacts initiation. In other words, Nehemiah actually took the time to actually wage the cost of what it's going to mean to rebuild the walls. Nehemiah actually spent some time sitting in the brokenness and actually thinking, hey, I mean, what is this going to cost us? I mean, is this actually going to be possible for us to even do? What are the materials that we're going to actually need to actually make sure that this can be accomplished? And I love how Byron was sharing, even in the context of CrossFit, that like to make CrossFit happen, there's actually this preparation time. There's this preparing time. I know about you guys, but often something comes to me, or there's this thing that I want to do, and I just run ahead and I get into it and I do it. And often I find myself halfway in it and I'm like, man, why did I do this? Why did I do this? This was a dumb idea. I can remember a couple of years ago, at Gracegate, we had this great light bulb moment, literally, where we thought, hey, let's take about 500 light bulbs, dip them in paint, and hang them all through our foyer. Can you guys remember that? For some of you who are young. And I can remember all the team like dipping them and hanging them. And I think there were mercury light bulbs at that stage. And we had done this, but I can remember like halfway through, we're like, man, this just takes forever. Like, this is just such a burden. Why do we do it? So many of us, at times, we can initiate before actually doing some investigation, before actually waging and thinking about, hey, what is this going to actually cost me? And the thing that I love most about Nehemiah is he actually goes and he sits in the ruins. He goes late at night when no one's awake, and he goes and he just sits in the ruins. He just goes and sits in the place that bothers him the most, where he really wants to see and make a difference. And for us, if we want to live a life of vision and purpose, we have to go and actually sit in the ruins. We actually, before we even start anything, we actually got to go and spend time with people who are struggling. We actually go and actually have to spend time with people who are not hitting it out the park and hitting home runs. And we actually just got to go and sit and discover and learn and see what's going on in their lives. Love this principle, the 3 I's. Investigation impacts initiation. And I love this because we're going to learn now, as we go into the next thing, how valuable this was for Nehemiah to do. The 3 R's are going to be these 3 R's of revelation requires responsibility. Can we go to the next slide? Revelation requires responsibility. And here we see, if we go to the text, if we go just to the next slide. Cool. But now I said to them, and this is now Nehemiah, he's got the whole, he's gone and he sat at the walls, and now he actually calls the people together. He hadn't shared this with any of the officials or anyone before. And then he gets everyone together and he says this, he says, but now I said to them, you know very well what trouble we are in. And I love how he voices, how he casts this vision, because he says, hey, I just want you guys to know, I've actually sat at the walls. I've actually seen the damage that has happened. And I want you to know that I am partnering with you. I'm in this with you together. I'm not here just to delegate or just to hand out responsibilities, but I myself am actually taking responsibility as well. And he says, hey, Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. I love this because this all started way back here when Nehemiah was actually serving the king. His brother shares the news, and this bothers him. This breaks his heart. And later we can see now, that once Nehemiah has actually had the revelation, has actually sat at the place, personally been there, he's like, hey, something has to be done, and I'm taking ownership. I'm taking responsibility. He says, hey, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. And then he goes on, and he says, then I told them about how the gracious hand of God had been on me and about my conversation with the king. In other words, hey, God is going to be with us as we go through this. And then this is their response. Straight away, they replied at once. I love this. They replied at once, and they will say, yes, let's rebuild the wall. And so they began the good work. I love this response. This vision was birthed in Nehemiah's heart. He goes and he casts the vision and he says, hey, something has to be done. I've experienced myself, and hey, I'm going to do this with you. We're going to do this together. He calls all the people together and he says, hey, the Jerusalem is in ruins. And basically what he was saying is, hey, it's so much more than just the walls. Like, it's the people. It's the safety. It's who we are as a community. It's how God wants to protect us as a community. And he casts the vision, and straight away people respond and they say, yes, yes, I'm in. If I think about this, there's a whole list of reasons that I could easily just change that yes to a no. I mean, people could have said, Nehemiah, look, we love your enthusiasm. We're so glad that you actually journeyed on a donkey so far. Like, wow, that was great, man. But hang on, hey, I just want you to inform you. You might not know this, but actually about 100 years ago, they tried to do this before, and they didn't succeed. So honestly, Nehemiah, I don't think this is the greatest idea. I mean, someone else could have said, hey, Nehemiah, I just want to put this out to you. None of us here have ever built a wall before. We don't even know the first thing on how to build a wall. I mean, they could have actually said, like, hey, Nehemiah, we don't have the resources, we don't have the skills, we don't have the finances, we don't have everything that it is going to require to build these walls. And some could have even said, like Nehemiah, I mean, you've been living in the palace your whole life. Now all of a sudden, you come all the way to Jerusalem to actually say, hey, let's do something about it. Come on, just go back home. We're comfortable just living in this mess how we are. We're comfortable. And you know, I see so much of us in this because often I see that God is actually revealing something that bothers us, that is actually requiring us to take responsibility. And yet some of us are saying, oh, you know what? That's not my responsibility. I mean, someone else will do that. I mean, that's what Wes is for. That's what the church is for. That's what the staff is for. Or actually, you know what? That's what teachers are for. That's what coaches are for. But no, someone else will do it. But I love their response here. Because straight away, they see the need and they say, hey, Nehemiah, we're with you. We're taking ownership. We're going to take responsibility. One of the things that I love about this community and this church is when I see this principle being played out, when this principle is being lived out, because there's so many people in this community who take our vision personally, who take ownership, who say, hey, you know, this community and the difference that we actually want to make in our community is not just up to one person, but it requires all of us saying, hey, I'm going to do my share. I've just got this in my hand, and hey, just use it because we know we're better together. We can make such a bigger impact if we're all on board this together. And I love their response. Hey, yes, we're with you, Nehemiah. Revelation requires responsibility. And then the third one is just this of courage conquers criticism. Courage conquers criticism. As soon as they start building, this is what happens. But then Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, the Arab, heard of our plan, and they scoffed contemptuously. What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king? They asked. They scoffed contemptuously. In other words, they laughed and they said, this is the dumbest thing that you guys are doing. I mean, look, so many other people have tried to do this before. Why are you even doing this? And as far as I understand, these guys are Jews themselves. I mean, they're on the same team. And they're actually, saying, hey, man, why are you guys even doing this? Why? That's dumb. I don't know about you, but if you ever don't want to be criticized in your life, then just make sure you never do anything big in your life. Just make sure that you live for yourself. Just make sure that, hey, life, if I just go down the narrow and the easy way, then, hey, life's just going to be a dream. But if you really want to be a catalyst, if you really want to make a significant difference in this world or in someone's life, know that criticism is going to show up. Criticism's going to be there. People are going to speak into your life words that you would hate to hear. Some nights you'll get in bed and you'll never sleep because you'll just hear all these voices. And funny enough, some of the biggest criticism that I get in my life, guess where it comes from? From me. From me. Speaking untruth lies into my own life. But I love this, that courage actually conquers criticism. And how does this look? Well, Nehemiah shows us in the next verse. Because as all of these guys actually share about criticize and laugh at them, this is Nehemiah's response straight away. He says this. He said, I replied, and straight away as he replies, I love this response. I wish we could do this all the time. He does this. He says, hey, the God of heaven will help us succeed. The God of heaven will help us succeed. We, his servants, will start rebuilding this wall. I love this. What Nehemiah teaches us here is that courage conquers criticism. Because what Nehemiah does here is he points to God straight away. When he's getting all the criticism, he actually just points to God straight away. And he says, hey, the God of heaven is going to give us success. The God of heaven is going to help us overcome. You see, I love this, that actually courage is actually not something that is just from the outside and maybe just looks like muscle and flesh and strong. No, courage is this inner work that the Holy Spirit does. It's this relationship and sort of it's this more that we lean into God, the more we lean in, the more we trust God, the more we say, hey, the God of heaven, the more we do that, the more courage we actually possess. And this is what Nehemiah does straight away. He says, hey, I'm pointing to God. Bring all your criticism. Bring all of it. Because I'm pointing to God, because courage is going to conquer criticism. Courage conquers criticism. I love this whole story and just these three principles that we can learn just from this section of Nehemiah's story, because all of this shows us that, hey, the cost of vision is actually not about you. I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but actually living a life of purpose and being a catalyst has got nothing really to do with you, but everything to do what God wants to do through you. And that's why we're sharing about catalysts. Just actually God using each and every one of us to make a significant difference in our lives, in other people's lives. And what I love about this is this whole story of Nehemiah is just a metaphor of who Jesus is. You see, because Jesus did the exact same, because Jesus actually came to this earth and he didn't just initiate his plan of the cross straight away. He actually spent time. He spent 3.5 years just getting to know the broken. He spent time with them. He healed them. He prayed for them. He actually spoke into their lives. And only after that did he actually go, okay, now it's time to actually initiate the game plan. Now it's actually time that that I'm actually going to sacrifice my life. You see, Jesus knew that, hey, there was a problem. It was revealed to him that there was a sin problem. And he said, you know what? I'm going to pay the price for you. I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to come, and I've received that revelation. And actually, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility for it. I'm going to take ownership for it. And he says, hey, I'm going to die for your sins. That's exactly what Jesus does. He goes and he gets on the cross so that we can actually live a life of purpose, and actually be in relationship with him forever. And then the most important thing I love about Jesus is, I mean, he has his critics. I mean, he's on the cross. He's surrendering his life for us. He's on the cross, and that's when everyone's laughing at him, scoffing at him, and saying, hey, if you truly are the Son of God, if you truly are all that, then why don't you just come down? Why don't you just come down? And I love his response. Straight away, his response is he points to God. He points to where his courage comes from, and he says, hey, God, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they do. You see, the cost of vision is exactly what Jesus has done for us. And because of that, we want to respond to actually living a life of vision and purpose and being a catalyst for him. God, today, as we just briefly share a bit of Nehemiah's story and how it looks to actually, not just run ahead and actually just initiate stuff, but actually just to sit with it, God, and actually do some investigation, actually just to see and weigh the cost of what it's going to actually take for us to truly make a difference. And God, today, if you've spoken to us in a way that says, hey, actually, it's your time to actually take responsibility of this gap, I pray that I'll just respond to that, God. Anyone today, if they've heard something and in some way you've actually said to them, you know what,